Live from New Delhi, you're watching GD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 1 hour, Prime Minister lauds the country's GDP growth as a strong macroeconomic symbol, says India is model for high growth and low inflation, sets a 10-year deadline to get rid of the colonial mindset. India and the United States calls for more sanctions on terrorists linked to Pakistan-based terror outfits like the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed and their proxies and backers. US seeks stronger ties with India for securing the Indo-Pacific. US's new national security strategy sees China as a threat, India a critical partner of the Quad. Cancellation and delay of domestic flights of IndiGo continue for the fifth day. Government directs all airlines to adhere to fare caps. IndiGo says trying to bring operations back on track. And Russian drones and missiles hit Ukrainian infrastructure, even as the US says progress made in talks with Kyiv. In sports, India win the third one-day international against South Africa by 9 wickets to clinch the ODI series 2-1. Yashasvi Jaiswal slams maiden ton. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday attended the HT Leadership Summit in New Delhi, where he underscored India's strong economic momentum. Citing the recently released Q2 GDP numbers, the Prime Minister said that India's 8% growth rate reflects a new pace of progress and sends a clear macroeconomic signal that India is emerging as a key driver of global growth.
अभी कुछ दिन पहले भारत में Q2 के जीडीपी फिगर्स आए हैं। 8% से ज्यादा की ग्रोथ रेट हमारी प्रगति की नई गति का प्रतिबिंब है। साथियों, ये सिर्फ नंबर नहीं है, ये स्ट्रॉन्ग मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक सिग्नल है। ये संदेश है कि भारत आज ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी का ग्रोथ ड्राइवर बन रहा है और हमारे ये आंकड़े तब है जब ग्लोबल ग्रोथ 3% के आसपास है। G7 की इकोनॉमीज औसतन 1.5% के आसपास है, 1.5%। इन परिस्थितियों में भारत हाई ग्रोथ और लो इन्फ्लेशन का मॉडल बना हुआ है।
The Prime Minister also spoke about the transformational shift in India's reform approach. He noted that earlier reforms were often reactionary or driven by political compulsions, but today they are guided by national goals, clear targets, and a consistent nation-first intent.
एक समय था जब भारत में रिफॉर्म्स रिएक्शनरी होते थे, यानी बड़े निर्णयों के पीछे या तो कोई राजनीतिक स्वार्थ होता था या फिर किसी क्राइसिस को मैनेज करना होता था। लेकिन आज नेशनल गोल्स को देखते हुए रिफॉर्म्स होते हैं, टारगेट तय है। आप देखिए, देश के हर सेक्टर में कुछ न कुछ बेहतर हो रहा है। हमारी गति कांस्टेंट है, हमारी डायरेक्शन कंसिस्टेंट है और हमारा इंटेंट नेशन फर्स्ट का है।
Prime Minister Modi also criticized what he called a colonial mindset, saying that the term Hindu rate of growth was used at a time when India was struggling with 2 to 3% growth, unfairly tagging an entire society with unproductivity and poverty and attributing slow development to India's civilizational identity.
आज भारत दुनिया की सबसे तेजी से ग्रो करने वाली मेजर इकोनॉमी है। कोई भारत को ग्लोबल ग्रोथ इंजन बताता है, कोई ग्लोबल पावर हाउस कहता है। एक से बढ़कर एक बातें आज हो रही है। लेकिन साथियों, आज भारत की जो तेज ग्रोथ हो रही है, क्या कहीं पर आपने पढ़ा, क्या कहीं पर आपने सुना, इसको कोई हिंदू रेट ऑफ ग्रोथ कहता है क्या? दुनिया की तेज इकोनॉमी, तेज ग्रोथ कोई कहता है क्या? हिंदू रेट ऑफ ग्रोथ कब कहा गया? जब भारत 2-3% की ग्रोथ के लिए तरस गया था। आपको क्या लगता है, किसी देश की इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ को उसमें रहने वाले लोगों की आस्था से जोड़ना, उनकी पहचान से जोड़ना, क्या ये अनायास ही हुआ होगा क्या? जी नहीं, ये गुलामी की मानसिकता का प्रतिबिंब था। एक पूरे समाज, एक पूरी परंपरा को अनप्रोडक्टिविटी का, गरीबी का पर्याय बना दिया गया। यानी ये सिद्ध करने का प्रयास किया गया कि भारत की धीमी विकास दर का कारण हमारी हिंदू सभ्यता और हिंदू संस्कृति है। और हद देखिए, आज जो तथाकथित बुद्धिजीवी हर चीज में, हर बात में सांप्रदायिकता खोजते रहते हैं, उनको हिंदू रेट ऑफ ग्रोथ में सांप्रदायिकता नजर नहीं आई। ये टर्म उनके दौर में किताबों का, रिसर्च पेपर्स का हिस्सा बना दिया गया।
And to discuss the Prime Minister's, key message at the HT Leadership Summit, I'm joined by Praful Ketkar. He's the editor of Organizer. Praful, the Prime Minister, hailed the Indian economic growth story, calling it a key driver of global economy. We'll come down to that. He put out many figures. He touched upon, the various reasons for that. But I want to come to the first to the last bite that we played of the Prime Minister, where he said, where he called for set a deadline for getting out of the colonial mindset over the next 10 years. Citing Hindu rate of growth, saying when we were struggling to grow at 2-3%, it was called a Hindu rate of growth. Now when we are growing above 8%, doing well, then you don't call it a Hindu rate of growth. Where did this term Hindu rate of growth come from? Was it by the Westerners or did we coin it? And if they coined it, then how do we get out of our colonial mindset, or where is the question of getting out of the Indians getting out of their colonial mindset?
Good evening. We need to understand that first time ever Prime Minister has been talking about decolonizing our minds. But first time perhaps he elaborated what does it mean so extensively. And this part was most interesting, because whenever we talk about the ideas of communalism and secularism, many a times, talking anything Hindu becomes communal. And in 1960s, many scholars, economists especially, though this was not new, the Weberian and the Marxist understanding of Indian economy was basically the status quoist. The idea of karma siddhanta was derogatory for them, and that's why they called it a static society. Now, unfortunately, the Nehruvian socialism was struggling to find a rate of growth that would be consistent with the global growth in 1960s. And that time, the term Hindu rate of growth was coined. And in academic circles, in research, everywhere this term was made popular.
Praful, who coined it? Praful, who coined it?
It was first, it was Indian economists who coined it, but it was rooted in the colonial mindset. Prime Minister precisely talking about it. It is not the question what Britishers tried to do or what American scholars are trying to do. The question is when Indian scholars blindly follow it, then that is a sign of colonial mindset. He is basically talking about this, and that is why I found that very, very interesting, because he elaborated on, the shipping industry, our villages, the role of women, the role of, startups, and how they can contribute, and they are contributing to Indian economy. The core theme was transforming tomorrow. So he actually laid down a path, what kind of reforms and what kind of foundation is going to change tomorrow. But as a precondition, he put forth this idea that we have to decolonize our minds. And one of the key factors is we should have a self-confidence, self-belief, and we should not be derogatory about our culture and our traditions.
Okay. Let's talk about what else he spoke about. He said India today is a model of high growth, low inflation, and is a key driver of the global economy. And he said that's a strong signal of our macroeconomics being right. But these are Q2 results. Is there a consistent growth trajectory that we can rest our laurels on?
See, if we see in comparative terms, India is doing consistently better in the post-COVID scenario. As Prime Minister was rightly pointing out, G7 is hovering around 1.5% growth rate. Entire world is facing some form of depression, and there India is definitely a rising star, if you want to call it, and that clearly shows the kind of mindset. See, the global challenges are common, especially what Prime Minister said, that in the last 25 years, we have seen so many upheavals. We have seen wars, we have seen global pandemic, we have seen, a series of economic crises, whether you take it 2002-3, whether 7-8, and post-pandemic, we have seen, a lot of economic changes. We have been witnessing a lot of technological changes. But the way India is coping with it, and that Prime Minister was trying to point out, that unless there is a participatory governance approach, unless there is a reform with a constructive mindset and not under some international pressure or as a reaction, we cannot achieve this consistent growth rate. So whether it is 6.7 or 8.2, it is not going to make much difference if we see in actual terms. What is important is when somebody is struggling to touch even 2.5%, 3%, we are consistently giving it above 6%. That is, that average. But again, if we really want to achieve the targets that Prime Minister has set for 2047 as a developed country, then perhaps we need a more consistent effort. But for that, probably Prime Minister pointed out the kind of approach we should have. He perhaps was trying to say that the foundation is laid, But unless everybody come together, decolonize yourself and unleash our potential to the best possible extent, we cannot achieve that goal. That was perhaps the crux of his speech today.
Praful, what did he mean by when he said that the nation first intent is driving consistent improvement?
See, what he was trying to, he gave example of, say, defense sector, for example, or shipping sector. There he gave example that, we developed a mindset at one point, even during, for that matter, British period, our defense industry, our weapon industry was doing very well. Till 60s, we had a very thriving shipping industry and we had a substantial share. In fact, India's original economic model was more maritime. But unfortunately, due to colonial mindset, we developed a kind of sea-blind approach, the Delhi-centric approach. The nation first approach, the nation first approach simply means where you put your national interest above your party or political or personal interest and then take decision very much rooted in your cultural ethos. That is what he tried to say when he in fact started by saying the way we are now more confident economy, the way we are a bridge builder. How many times we have seen a country where a Russian president is in India and the U.S. is upgrading India's status as a strategic partner, happening almost simultaneously. How India is able to lead G20, the global South on the one hand, and become a member or a partner in entire G7 or G8 process. All these things suggest that if you keep your national interest above everything, then you can have a right policy options and you can talk to the global players also with more conviction and confidence. That is what India is doing currently.
Okay. All right, Praful, before I let go of you, the Prime Minister said there is a transformational shift in India's reform approach. He said that earlier, reforms were often reactionary or driven by political compulsions. But today they are guided by national goals, clear targets, a consistent nation-first intent. What is the comparison? What was he trying to say there?
He was clearly talking about the 1990s reforms when Dr. Manmohan Singh, as a finance minister, liberalized the economy, but it was more under the the pressure from World Bank and IMF, and we had to sign join World Trade Organization under the Western pressure. Our economic condition was very bad. Our foreign exchange reserve was not up to the mark, and all these things led to the so-called reforms. Now, the idea of reform is based on our own conviction and our own interest. For example, we have completely let off the archaic laws. Almost 1,500 laws are no longer applicable in India. It was no compulsion by anybody, but it was a conviction that, why unnecessary, whether small-scale industries, whether individuals, whether families, why should they be governed under the laws which actually do not make any sense because they were some colonial laws. Even many of our, whether criminal procedure code, whether our income tax laws, they are also being reformed so that, one is, of course, we should change the systems and the laws as per the need of the time.
Okay.
But also, it is important that, they should be in tune with our requirement and not as per the requirement of other players.
Okay. All right. Praful, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us and taking our time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And still to come up on DD India Newshour, 4 civilians killed in border clashes between Pakistan and Afghanistan. U.S. Supreme Court agrees to hear the case challenging birthright citizenship. Over 900 dead in Indonesia's floods as starvation threatens remote villages.
In today's episode, let's take a look at what does it truly mean to eat sustainably.
We add the already colonized mycelium into this ecosystem for basically helping the ecosystem to thrive more.
We're a public institution. Our goal is to grow vegetables.
Some urban areas already combine city and rural elements. Our urban agriculture programs are designed to tackle food security and meet the nutritional needs of the poor.
If you're prepared to love the land and the animals and don't see living such a life as making a sacrifice, then this is the right profession for you.
After gaining some knowledge about farming, I told myself, let's quit this and start our own business. And I decided to start goat farming.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar today said that no country has a say on how India develops its relations with others. Addressing the HT Leadership Summit in New Delhi, Dr. Jaishankar underlined that India has a freedom of choice in geopolitics and enjoys strategic autonomy. Dr. Jaishankar addressed key diplomatic issues including India's ties with Russia, the United States trade deal and relations with China, emphasizing the importance of maintaining a balanced foreign policy amidst a complex geopolitical landscape. Jaishankar emphasized the importance of maintaining a strong relationship with major nations, including Russia, given the current geopolitical environment. Jaishankar said that Russia has been a steadfast ally of India for years.
If you look at India-Russia, the world has seen a lot of ups and downs in the last 78 years. I've said this before and I'll say it again. India-Russia has actually been among the steadiest big relationships, big power or big country relationships in the world. I mean, even Russia's own relationship with China or US or Europe has had its ups and downs. Our relationships with, many of these countries have had it so. But one, where Russia is concerned, and I think you can see that also in popular sentiment. There is a feeling in the streets about Russia.
India and the United States have unequivocally condemned terrorism in all its forms. At the 21st meeting of the Joint Working Group on Counter-Terrorism and the 7th Designations Dialogue in New Delhi, officials from both sides reviewed major threats from recruitment and technology misuse to terror financing. They strongly condemned the April 22nd Pahalgam attack in Jammu and Kashmir and the recent terror incident near Delhi's Red Fort. The meeting called for additional UN 1267 designations of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed. They sought global asset freezes, travel bans and arms embargoes on these groups. Concern was raised over the growing use of UAVs, drones and artificial intelligence for terrorist activity. The discussions reaffirmed the strength of the India-U.S. counter-terrorism partnership. The government has stepped in to rein in soaring airfares amid massive disruption in IndiGo operations. For the first time since COVID, airfare caps have been reimposed. IndiGo in a statement said that it cancelled below 800 flights on Saturday, much lower than Friday's number of more than 1,000. DD India's Taposh Bhattacharya has this report.
Taking a serious view of unusually high airfares being charged during the ongoing IndiGo crisis, Ministry of Civil Aviation has invoked its regulatory powers to cap ticket prices across the affected routes. The move aims to prevent opportunistic pricing and protect passengers from financial exploitation. The fare caps will remain in force till IndiGo restores operations to pre-crisis levels, now expected by December 15th, to help the airline stabilize. The government has temporarily kept new pilot duty norms on hold. The ministry has also issued strict directions to IndiGo to clear all pending passenger refunds without delay. Refunds for all cancelled and disrupted flights must be fully processed by 8 p.m. on Sunday, December 7th. Airlines have also been told not to charge any rescheduling fees. Any delay or violation will invite immediate regulatory action. Dedicated passenger support and refund facilitation cells are being set up. IndiGo has also been directed to trace and deliver any separated baggage to passengers within the next 48 hours. As a result, normalcy has now begun to be restored at various airports, including at airports in Jaipur, Pune, Chennai, Delhi, Coimbatore, Varanasi, Birsa Munda Airport in Ranchi, among others. Additional counters of IndiGo were made operational to expedite rescheduling and cancellation for passengers at Ranchi Airport. Later in the evening, IndiGo, in a statement, said it is working to bring its operations back on track across the network. Besides, airlines also added that it is addressing all customer refunds on priority. The airline said the number of cancellations has dropped to below 850 flights, lower than on Friday. IndiGo, which operates around 2,200 flights daily, cancelled more than 1,000 flights on Friday. To manage the surge of stranded passengers, South Central Railway has announced 4 special trains. The Aviation Ministry says it remains in constant coordination with all stakeholders to ensure passenger safety, support, and convenience during this disruption. Taposh Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
And now on to some news from the United States. The U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to decide the legality of President Donald Trump's directive to restrict birthright citizenship in the United States. The Supreme Court will hear the Justice Department's appeal of a lower court decision that stopped Trump's order. That order would have told U.S. agencies not to recognize citizenship for children born in the U.S. if neither parent is a U.S. citizen nor a legal permanent resident or a green card holder. The lower court ruled that Trump's policy violated the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment and a federal law codifying birthright citizenship rights in a class action lawsuit by parents and children whose citizenship is threatened by the directive. U.S. Ambassador to the NATO, Matthew Whitaker, said that the Doha Forum that Russia and Ukraine are closer than ever to a peace deal, highlighting NATO's continued strength and commitment. At the same time, both sides report intensified military activity. Ukraine says Russian drones and missiles have targeted energy and transport infrastructure, while Russia's Ryazan oil refinery and a shell plant were struck by Ukrainian forces. Here's a report.
U.S. Ambassador to NATO Matthew Whitaker on Saturday held a panel at the Doha Forum that Russia and Ukraine are closer than ever to a peace deal.
We're closer than we've ever been to peace, and this is, as President Trump has said, this is a tough situation to get to the right spot.
However, despite hope for peace in Ukraine, Russia has intensified its attack on Ukraine's energy sector and infrastructure in recent weeks. Ukraine's military reported Russia launched 653 drones and 51 missiles. Ukrainian state railway company said that a railway hub near Kyiv was attacked during a large-scale Russian drone and missile attack that damaged the depot and railway carriage.
The strikes were directly at the station. The strike was at the suburban depot. It's not even a depot where locomotives are serviced. It's a depot where electric trains are serviced. They are simply called electric trains. The connection is strictly suburban, connecting Kyiv and the Kyiv region. There was also an insidious strike at our dispatch center.
While Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant temporarily lost all off-site power overnight. the International Atomic Energy Agency said on Saturday, citing its Director General Rafael Marino Grossi. On the other hand, Ukraine's military said that Ukrainian force had hit the Russian resin oil refinery as well as cell casing manufacturing plant. Amid all these attack peace effort by Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner in Ukraine also continues. The talks followed Witkoff and Kushner's 5 hour meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow earlier this week. Putin called those discussions very useful, though no compromise was reached. Bureau Report, DD India.
Pakistan and Afghanistan have witnessed their deadliest border flare-up in weeks after an overnight exchange of heavy fire that killed at least 5 people. This comes despite a fragile ceasefire that has been in place since October clashes, essentially stalling the ongoing peace efforts and forcing key border crossings to shut down once again. Rupak Kumar Jha has this report.
Tensions at border areas between Pakistan and Afghanistan further intensified after heavy cross-border firing on Friday, resulting into death of 5 people. Afghan officials said that Pakistani forces launched attacks in Kandahar's Spin Boldak district, while Islamabad accused Kabul's forces of unprovoked firing along the Chaman crossing. According to Afghan government, the shelling killed 4 civilians and a soldier, while wounding at least 5 others. Pakistani authorities reported minor injuries on their side as mortar rounds landed near residential areas around Chaman. Witnesses on both sides described tanks, heavy artillery, and hours of sustained gunfire hitting civilian neighborhoods. The clashes come amid a fragile ceasefire that has held uneasily since deadly violence in October, which left more than 70 people dead. Initially mediated by Qatar and Turkey, and more recently through a Saudi-led initiative, the latest round of peace talks again stalled without a long-term agreement. At the core of the dispute, Pakistan has accused Afghan-based militants of carrying out attacks inside its territory, including suicide bombings. However, Kabul has denied the allegations and blamed Islamabad of shifting responsibility for its internal security problems. The exchange forced authorities to shut the border, leaving dozens of travelers stranded overnight. Caught in the crossfire, the common folk across the border hope for a swift ease on the situation to return to their normal day-to-day life. Rupak Kumar Jha's report for DD India.
And still to come up on DD India Newshour, the US's National Security Strategy report terms China as a threat, calls India a critical partner in securing the Indo-Pacific. We discuss the implications with a special guest on the show.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. The United States has unveiled its National Security Strategy 2025, highlighting the Indo-Pacific as a central arena for global security and geopolitics. The document positions India as a rising security provider, urges closer ties to boost its role, and emphasizes stronger Quad cooperation. The U.S. strategy takes a sharply critical stance on China and stresses deterrence over Taiwan. The document also warns of challenges in Europe and signals a renewed Monroe Doctrine to reinforce U.S. influence in the West. DD India's Nishchoy Roy reports.
The United States laid out its vision for a changing world, one where power is shifting, competition is intensifying, and the Indo-Pacific stands at the heart of global stakes. The White House released its National Security Strategy 2025, calling the Indo-Pacific the world's prime strategic arena. The document positions India as a rising security provider, stressing that US must continue to improve commercial and other relations with New Delhi to encourage India's contribution to Indo-Pacific. The document designates India as a critical partner, especially in countering what it calls predatory economic practices in the region. It stresses stronger Quad cooperation with India, Australia, and Japan. The strategy underscores joint efforts with India, Europe, and Asian partners to bolster US positions in the Western Hemisphere and Africa's emerging critical minerals ecosystem. The US strategy takes a sharply critical tone on China, arguing that President Trump single handedly reversed decades of mistaken US assumptions. It stresses the need to deter conflict over Taiwan and reaffirms America's commitment to maintain military overmatch to prevent any attempt to alter the status quo by force. The strategy document warns of civilizational erasure in Europe and urges caution on NATO expansion. It also says the US will reassert the Monroe Doctrine to restore its influence in Western Hemisphere. Responding to the document's sharper tone, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaya Kalas told the Doha Forum that US remains Europe's key ally, downplaying concerns over criticism.
U.S. is still our biggest ally, and there I read it as well that we are still the biggest ally, and it's in the interest of United States as well that Europe lasts, and that we are really still the ally and working together for these things. I think we haven't always seen eye to eye on different topics, but I think the overall principle is still there. We are the biggest allies and we should stick together.
With the Indo-Pacific set to shape the 21st century, the strategy calls it a key economic and geopolitical battleground. Nishoy Roy's report for DD India.
And to discuss the implications of this national security strategy of the United States, I'm joined by Manjeev Singh Puri, former senior diplomat. Good evening, sir. Good to have you on the show. Sir, I'll begin by quoting from this report. And the exact quote is, "We must continue to improve commercial and other relations with India to encourage New Delhi to contribute to the Indo-Pacific security." Is there a disconnect while President Trump is insisting on his tariffs policy? Their national security strategy says, well, we should improve commercial relations, other relations, defense relations with New Delhi so that they can contribute to the security. Is there a disconnect there within the administration?
Ripal, thank you very much. This document is also signed by the president himself and released by him. Look, let me make a few big points to you. This document does something which is quite different from what was done during 2017 in Trump 1 when they released their national security strategy. At that time, they still continued basically with the old American policy of allies and so on. This now clearly portrays the change which has overcome. You mentioned the Monroe Doctrine. This is essentially an isolationist doctrine, one which says the United States will be interested in the Americas, and that's why Western Hemisphere receives so much of an attention. They downplay Europe. You heard the European foreign minister, EU's high representative, talk in terms of being the most important ally. It kind of disparages them, talks in terms of governments which are unstable and so on and so forth. I also want to make 2-3 other points to you. You know, we should try and see this in various ways. Donald Trump has number of times spoken of the Prime Minister as his friend. He's mentioned, look, I've done these tariffs because there are A, B, and C things like buying oil from Russia that you do, which is why you're getting it. But in various ways, it's important that in this strategy, there is a recognition that China is a competition. What we have seen in Trump 2.0 till now is unlike Trump 2.1, where after the initial sort of honeymoon with China, it became a clear case that they were a major competitor and needed to be contained. That has tended to be shown as being far less, But this strategy has said that's important. And India's role as being a security provider in the Indo-Pacific has been noted along with Quad, along with our abilities to be on their side on critical minerals in general, in terms of what we can do with Europe. All of this, should be good as far as we are concerned. I would say, let's try and look at these things in some degrees of silos. The United States knows that India is a good and a friendly partner. We have civilized, we have links, we are kind of natural partners. At the same time, President Trump is very strong on the question of America first. And this doctrine also says that. You remember there's a line there which says trade should be balanced. Now, this is something which is being very strongly pushed by him, and that's exactly what tariffs are. We run a trade surplus with the United States.
So he's called, the report calls you a critical partner. They call Europe in decline, so they can say what they want to. One can argue that all they look at you is a pawn in the Indo-Pacific to counter China.
Amritpal, look, let's not use that word. The fact that India has been specifically mentioned in 3 or 4 places, let's leave the one about Pakistan and India and Operation Sindoor on one side. The fact that it has been mentioned, it can't be seen by anyone as pawn. It's that we are an important player. Above that, let us not also overread too much of all of this. The importance of India stands recognized, also in the security domain, also in terms of the competition with China, also in terms of what we can do in our region, and much more important, outside our region on major issues like critical minerals. So overall, the strategy recognizes the importance of India.
So it does. Ambassador Puri, it does, but only as a key counterbalance in its broader China policy.
Also on critical minerals, in terms of a degree of stabilization in the world order, along with Europe and countries in Africa. So it mentions all of those particular things. Look, we must remember, this is a document which is big, bold saying, America first. Our hegemony will apply. Our hegemony will apply everywhere in the world. You don't expect him to give anybody really anything other than the fact that, yes, your good friend, your partners. That itself means that there is a recognition that you are important.
Okay. What does it mean by seeing, seeing India as a partner in countering predatory economic practices and maintaining US's global leadership?
Look, one of the factors is this entire business of oil purchase. There have also been other issues which President Trump constantly highlights, that you take advantage of tariff differentials. You don't allow imports of US goods freely into India. You have high protectionist policies and so on and so forth. So look, these are words which are slightly different than the words which are used in those tariff discussions, but which are words which basically aim at the same thing. The United States is looking for, or Donald Trump and his administration is looking for, balanced trade, if possible, US surpluses. That's their outlook, that's the way they look at it. Many economists would think that's not such a great idea, but that's beside the point. And therefore, they look at even a country like India of having benefited from asymmetry, protectionism at its end, taking advantage of US openness, etc. Of course, they are not much bothered about the fact that the US consumer has benefited. If Indian companies have operated there, if Indian products have gone there, Indian generics have been there, they have benefited them. That, of course, doesn't matter. It's a question of balance the trade, and we run the trade surplus.
Okay. So my last question to you before I let go of you. How much should we read into this report? What does it, how does it augur for the relationship going forward? Or it's just a report which puts out things in the Indo-Pacific context, or maybe at critical minerals?
No, let's be very clear. It recognizes that India is an important player and a partner of the United States. Partner, let me also say it with a small p. Europe, who are their largest allies, have only got a small a for the word ally, so what else can I say about it? I think one
no,
of
he
these,
said the report says they are facing civilizational erasure.
Correct. So, the fact that, he does refer to NATO, etc., as I said, it's allies, but with a small a. So what can we say about it? The fact, however, which is a little worrisome in this, is that unlike 2017 and the doctrines usually issued by the United States, the 2022 strategy, China is not identified so very strongly as the ultimate competitor, neither in that sense has Russia been identified. Now, let's leave Russia out. We have very excellent relations. But with China, we need to understand that we do have this border issue. We have a huge number of competitions, quite apart from the fact that we do trade, we do economic relations, and we are building within the constraints of what is possible. This particular thing is a matter which is a shift in terms of the way we should also look at it from previous administrations and so on, that China, let me use this word very bluntly, is not been identified as enemy. This basically says
it's
we
a
are
competitor.
kind of open to do deals with them. And that's something that should be worrisome.
All right. Ambassador Manjeev Singh Puri, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining in and sharing your insights with us. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you. And let's now take a look at other stories making news. Odisha Chief Minister Mohan Charan Maji, along with Union Minister Prahlad Joshi, on Saturday inaugurated the Global Energy Leaders Summit 2025 in Puri. The two-day summit aims to bring together global experts, policy makers and industry leaders to shape the future of sustainable and clean energy. During the three-day visit to Nagaland, Union Minister for Development of Northeastern Region Jyotiraditya Scindia participated in the Hornbill Festival of Nagaland, celebrating the state's extraordinary cultural heritage and the rich traditions of its 17 tribes as part of the three-day tour to Nagaland. During his visit, the minister engaged deeply with artisans, entrepreneurs and cultural practitioners. Indian Army's Tri-Shakti Corps operationalized on-site 3D concrete printing in Sikkim using an indigenous portable robotic system developed with IIT Hyderabad under Project Prabal. The technology enables rapid construction of fortified structures validated through live ballistic trials, boosting infrastructure readiness in high-altitude forward zones. And still to come up on DD India Newshour, wildfire in Australia's New South Wales burned through thousands of hectares of bushland. Indian batter Shubman Gill declared fit to play in the opening T20 International against South Africa on the 9th of December.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Wildfires in Australia's New South Wales burned through thousands of hectares of bushland, prompting the authorities to urge evacuations at the highest danger rating for thousands of residents in the nation's most populous state. More than 70 bushfires were burning across the state late on Saturday. The blaze had burned through almost 10,000 hectares of land. President Draupadi Murmu, Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other leaders paid floral tributes to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar at the Parliament lawn on his death anniversary. The day is also marked as Mahaparinirvan Divas, where Indians pay respect and gratitude to the men who fought for the rights of depressed communities against the scourge of untouchability. On his death anniversary, the countrymen reflect on Ambedkar's teachings and give heartfelt homage to his legacy of laying the foundation stone of a fair and inclusive Indian society for all. And later the Prime Minister wrote on X, and I quote, remembering Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar on Mahaparinirvan Divas, his visionary leadership and unwavering commitment to justice, equality and constitutionalism continue to guide our national journey. He inspired generations to uphold human dignity and strengthen democratic values. May his ideals keep lighting our path as we work towards building a Viksit Bharat. Unquote. And you're watching DD India Newshour. Time now for some sports news. India thrashed South Africa by 9 wickets in the third and the final one-day international in Visakhapatnam to clinch the ODI series 2-1. Opener Yashasvi Jaiswal hit his maiden one-day international century as India crushed South Africa by now 9 wickets. Chasing 271 for victory, India rode on Jaiswal's unbeaten 116 runs and his opening stand of 155 runs with Rohit Sharma, who hit 75 runs to achieve the target. Virat Kohli hit the winning boundary to return unbeaten on 65 off 45 balls. Rohit got past the 20,000 international runs mark during the knock to be only the 4th Indian after Sachin Tendulkar, Kohli and Rahul Dravid to achieve the feat. Bowlers set up victory after left-arm spinner Kuldeep Yadav and fast bowler Prasidh Krishna took 4 wickets each to bowl out South Africa for 270 after opener Quinton de Kock hit a sparkling century. And batter Shubman Gill has been declared fit to play the opening 2020 international against South Africa. India's 2020 vice-captain Gill received clearance from the sports science team at the BCCI Centre of Excellence. He completed his rehabilitation program following the neck injury during the Kolkata test against South Africa. The injury occurred on the second day of the test, resulting in Gill being hospitalized for a couple of days. He missed the ongoing one-day international series. The 5-match 2020 series will begin on 9th of December in Cuttack and conclude in Ahmedabad 10 days later. On to the second Ashes test in Brisbane. England have finished their second innings at 134 runs for the loss of 6 wickets, trailing Australia by 43 runs at the stumps on day 3. Scott Boland, Michael Nesser and Michelle Stark took 2 wickets each to put England in dire straits. Earlier on day 3, Australia were all out for 511 runs, taking a massive lead of 177 before the start of England's second innings. For Australia, pacer Michelle Stark became the highest run scorer with a 77-run knock. All the 11 batters managed to reach double figures, which has happened for the first time for Australia since 1992. In their first innings, England were bundled out for 344 runs, with Stark taking 6 wickets. Australian captain Pat Cummins will be ready to return from injury for the third Ashes test against England in Adelaide. Cummins missed the series opener in Perth and the ongoing day-night match in Brisbane while recovering from a back injury. Cummins confirmed media reports that selectors had seriously considered picking him for the second test in Brisbane before deciding it was too risky. Steve Smith has led Australia in Cummins' absence, with Scott Boland replacing him in the pace unit. With fellow pacer Josh Hazelwood unlikely to be fit for Adelaide, Cummins will return at the expense of Brendan Doggett or Michelle Nesser. The 2026 Winter Games flame has started its 2-month journey through Italy from Rome. The relay is designed to stir excitement across the country ahead of the Games. Italy's Olympic medal-winning swimmer Gregorio Paltrinieri was the first torchbearer to carry the Olympic flame as it began its 12,000-kilometer journey. The torch will travel through 110 Italian provinces and more than 300 municipalities, stopping in 60 cities for end-of-day celebrations before reaching Milan in time for the opening ceremony on 6th of February. The games will be co-hosted by Milan and Cortina d'Ampezzo and run from 6th to 22nd February. And that's it in this edition of DD India Newshour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amrit Pal Singh from my entire team here in Delhi. Thank you for watching DD India Newshour. Bye-bye.